Well, be that as it may, it is 3:31. I will call the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting to order. For the, Brian, are you taping the recording this as well?
I am, yes.
Okay, so for the record, we have Councilman Nathan Martin present, Mayor Steve Shagg, Finance Director Brian Crum, Deputy Finance Director Amber Cutlip, Joe Geis, Project Coordinator, and myself, Garland Gates. So we will begin, as we always do, with the financial statement, which was emailed out about 20 minutes or so ago. So hopefully everyone has printed it out or is looking at it at the screen. So Mr. Crum, take us through it.
All right. Joe, I did not email you. Would you like a copy of it? You're good? Okay. I'm assuming that's what you said as you're muted, but I'm actually pleasantly surprised.
I'll check it out later, yeah.
Okay. I'm pleasantly surprised with where we're at right now, with all of the unknowns that exist. You know, I've just general fund. Our cash balance is $1,073. Oh, gotta figure out how to turn off my phone. Excuse me, I'm new to the phone system to silence it. Yeah. There we go. Or $1,073,959,000 at April 30th in the cash balance in the fund. After encumbrances, it's a little less than 879,000. Year to date, we're actually up 144,000, and we're up almost 41,000 from last year. Now, one thing that's got us going up is we got the first 4 months of administrative costs from the other funds this month. So that helped a lot, you know, but I'm looking at the percentages of income. You know, we're at 37% of income for the year, which is about right. We're only at 29% of expenses. So kudos to everybody at the city for really thinking hard about what they needed to spend last month, because it really has made a difference. And hopefully as things progress here, we can open up to a few new, you know, a few of the projects that we want to put on, a few of the expenses that we wanted to do. But so our general fund balance is very healthy right now. Going through the street funds, they are all, you know, doing fairly well. And we've just discussed earlier, was it this week? Or maybe it was the end of last week. Just kind of got a new plan for some of the street paving. We are kind of waiting to see what the gasoline tax deposit is that will come in on the 15th of this month, to kind of get a better projection of okay, what can we do in total? But I know that the wheels are in motion to start the projects that we know we can afford. So
do we have an idea what asphalt prices are doing?
Joe, do you know offhand?
I put some feelers out to some other cities. Getting some stuff in. I'm going to analyze those with Ray. Initially, a lot of the other people put their projects out before the COVID thing struck. So they said they were up at that time, but we'll see here. So I'll get some more feelers out. But we're looking to talk to the Streets and Utilities Committee tomorrow about putting out a project.
Okay. Mayor, was there something you wanted to say? You're muted. No.
Now we're okay. Very good. I think Joe, if I recall correctly, at the Regional Planning Commission Executive Committee meeting this morning, they mentioned that they predicted the gas tax be off 15 to 20%. Is that? Did I hear that correctly? And so they have some pretty good, I guess, some calculators.
That's what we've been hearing. Yeah.
Yeah, but and I think Jodica has been reaching out trying to get a feel for that. So So Brian, in answer your question, yeah, that's again, that 15, 20% reduction. John has been keeping track since our last, it'll be interesting to get these new figures, but of course, Mr. Ensman's been keeping track of our sales gas tax, I should say.
Okay.
He sent out an email. I believe he said it was 9% off from last year.
Yeah, but on both, yeah, both of
The
those.
income tax and the gas tax.
Mhm.
That's better than it could be.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
I think going on, that would have been for February's
But
driving time though. So I think once we get going on further, it's going to get worse. So.
Yeah, you are unfortunately probably correct. So we'll keep an eye on that. Continue to move through here. There are a couple line items where the balance after encumbrances are negative, particularly income tax is negative 20,000. I think water is negative 3,000. The biggest reason for that is we encumbered the entire year's administrative costs. And so, a lot of those expenses are in-house expenses that will be done throughout the year. So, and of course, income tax, we decide every month what the expenses are and get it down to 50,000. So there's no worry there. Water, which I guess I'll just jump down to real quick. It is a very tight budget. I know that John is watching things very closely and every expense that comes out of there because it is incredibly tight this year. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on that and maybe do something about it as the year goes on.
Brian, your explanation of why those two funds are negative makes sense. My understanding, though, is that when you take out or you factor in the encumbrances, that a fund may not ever be negative.
Okay. So does that mean that we should cancel those POs and then just encumber it by month?
Sorry, let me interrupt. The fund balance is not actually negative. If I was to pull like a balance, sheet right now, they would all be positive. It's just for this combined financial statement, they are showing negative because this financial statement takes into account encumbrances. This is not the actual true fund balance today.
That may be. That's an explanation, but it still doesn't address my concern that a fund may never be in the negative.
Okay. So,
I mean, if your explanation is because we encumbered the full year's amount, it's easy to remedy that by going back and instead of a full year's, put 6 months worth. Change that purchase order and get those funds into the black.
yeah, we can certainly do that. That's not a problem. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any problem with that at all. We can go ahead and close out those purchase orders then and do them for shorter timelines. Does that need to be done retroactively to April, or can we do that in May?
You can't retroactive close a PO out. It would just be closed today and
Yep.
you can't retroactive them because it's not actually money spent or nothing. So there's no correcting journal entry or nothing like that. That would be done, it's just what's encumbered. I mean,
Okay, well, let's leave it this way. And I'm speaking as one member here. This balance sheet we've got is what it is. This member of the committee does not like to see negative numbers in that column. So that's my advice, for here on out.
We can do that.
If I can speak to the water fund real quick
Sure.
as well.
Sure.
So we're all aware of the CARES Act passed by the House in DC, limits the ability to do fees for collection. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere in the Senate, but if that piece does survive, that is going to cause some serious ramifications for our fund, because around $11,000 a month is a result of those fees on a typical basis. So just something to bear in mind, that an already tight fund will get exceedingly worse if that goes into play. So we will have to look at some other mitigating factors. So just keeping you guys abreast of that. We'll be discussing that tomorrow, I'm sure. But John's been kind of emailing me information from the public utilities, something, and they have a lot of concerns about that as well.
This is the difference between, after you're saying after the, we bills are due by, what is it, 10th or the 15th. Ours is electronic, so that's why I don't keep track of it. The additional fee.
That's correct. Yeah, and the legislation itself says that you can't put into place that fee until there's a whole bunch of guidelines to it that basically makes it as if you're not going to be able to put that fee in place. So.
Okay.
You know what? Reading that John's email, it might be even scarier. I'm hoping I'm reading it wrong, but I think it also says you can't shut people off. So if there's no late fee and you can't shut them off, theoretically people could go months without even paying their bill. I certainly hope that that's wrong, because that could really hurt.
Yeah, it's not. There's a whole. Yeah. It would be very devastating to our local utilities, and we all know that it doesn't include any kind of help or grants to help offset to local utility companies either. So it's basically you're cut off from your revenue stream, and we're not going to assist you. But there is in the CARES Act monies to go to people to pay their water bills, but it's not clear that those monies going to people to pay their water bills actually get paid, pay the water bills. So there's some serious issues there, and hopefully it gets fixed. And it's just what passed in the House, it's what's being considered in the House. They're looking, I guess, to pass it on Friday, but it hasn't gone to the Senate, and But I just wanted to keep people abreast of, it sounds good in theory to cancel and waive these late fees on a recurrent basis, but specifically for our water fund that's on very, very thin margins, that does have a cost. So anyways, I don't want to belabor the point. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, what else do I have? The health department, they have a good strong cash balance at $391,000. The park department also has cash of $194,000. They just got the property tax.
Brian, you're cutting out.
I apologize. Hopefully
That's better.
All right. But the park department, they received their real estate tax money last month, and so they have a very healthy fund. The park department did opt to keep the swimming pool closed this year, and their reasoning for that was, the governor has not allowed pools to open, and it's a 30-day process to get the pool ready. So already, we'd be mid-June if he said it was okay today, and they worry about staffing and implement all the policies and procedures we needed to keep people safe, but they were just worried about the being able to get staff. You know, how long we actually open. You know, if all of a sudden we end up opening on July 1st, and then generally by the beginning of August it slows down. So, you know, but regardless, that will probably take the part of some money, and so they should be fairly set for finances. I know that they aren't going to need quite as many staff members and everything. So they are at least fiscally secure for the time being. Most of the other 200 funds are just what they are, nothing really notable. Our capital improvement funds, you know, we've only spent 60% of the appropriate expenses, again, because generally a lot of that stuff, well, it happens after appropriations, and you know, right after appropriations, everything came to a halt. So we'll be picking and choosing what we'll be able to do here shortly.
Hey, Brian, on the pools with the
Mhm.
park fund, do we know if people paid season passes, they're going to need to get refunded out of that? Or had that process not kicked in yet? So,
Good
you know,
question.
is there going to be money taken out? Like, how are they handling people who have paid in advance for season passes and all that kind of stuff?
Luckily, they have not sold any season passes to the pool yet.
Okay.
So they're good there. That does bring up the point of pavilions. You know, they rent the pavilions. They did decide that they're going to cancel pavilion rentals for May and June and refund those monies. Or actually, first they're going to ask if people would be willing to reschedule, and if not, they'll refund the money. But that's not a significant amount of reservations so far. It's maybe a half a dozen. But yeah, good question about the pool though. Luckily, we do not hold a bunch of the citizens' money yet. Let's see, we talked about streets. Talked about the water fund. The electric fund is still very healthy at $3 million. We are down 200, almost 248,000 for the year, and we're down 417,000 from this time last year. So that fund is going down, and of course, with you guys' legislation from last month, that should go down more in line with goals. I guess not a whole lot on the rest of the page. The hospitalization fund, it has $451,000 in, almost $452,000, $54,000 for the year, almost $147,000 from this time last year. That's great news. People are staying healthy, you know, because especially if there was a large spread of disease that going to get ugly. But
Hey, Brian,
yes.
your microphone, I don't know if they're having issues. It's breaking up real bad. It's not picking up your voice very well at all right now. I hear about every word you say.
I'll try to speak slower.
Is it possible that you could put your computer microphone on mute and call in on the phone number for Zoom?
Sure, I can do that.
I think it might just been the way you were maybe speaking away from it or something, because it seems like when you're turned a certain way, it's clearer.
All right. Well, I'll try speaking like this for the time being. If it persists,
Move
just
your
let me know.
papers a little bit that direction, perhaps. Because it seemed like when you were leaned over to the other direction, it was just all sorts of chaos.
That's really my goal, is to just keep everybody
there.
in confusion.
Okay, see, just right there. Perfect. Yeah, right. I hear you.
That's about everything I have for the first page, unless anybody has any questions. The second page is all budget. You know, revenues are down about 55,000 for our total budget for the year, which is not terrible. Expenditures are up 597,000. Most of those were early on in the year, and we had discussed them in prior months, so that does not shock me terribly. General fund revenues are almost spot on, 3,000 up for the year. Expenditures are about 100,000, but those are all earlier in the year. So that's expected. Under the revenue items, the biggest difference is the county grants and aid. It's down almost 42,000 from last year. The biggest difference with that was they reimbursed us some costs for court employees, and that was recalculated and lost. This year. So that's why money is down from prior year. Wages in the general fund are up about 100,000 for the year. I had to talk with Amber about this earlier because I just don't have the historical perspective of maybe we were short staffed last year, or this. I don't think we really paid out any vacation time or anything significantly this year. But Amber and I will continue to keep an eye on wages and make sure that that's all reasonable. Nothing notable with the capital improvement funds or the police court funds really. The income tax at the bottom of that page. Individual income tax is down 22% through April. And the real reason for that is because we moved the tax deadline. So instead of scrambling in here to make their tax payments, they're now waiting. I do expect that number to go back to probably better than last year, just because it's all based on prior year's net income. So I'm not worried about the negative 22% there. The business income tax, which is also based on prior year, that's great. They're up 15%. Obviously both individual income tax will be a problem next year because what we're going through now will impact these numbers a year from now.
Well, there you go.
Now, withholding is still up almost 11% for the year. That doesn't really surprise me either because the first quarter was a really good quarter until the last couple weeks. So for the time being, it's great. And just how withholding is collected, it could be July before we really see a big difference. Our monthly withholders and then our quarterly withholders. But I don't expect that to stay up 11% for the year. If it stays equal, I'll be happy. That's everything I have for that page, unless anybody has any questions. The next page discusses utilities. We kind of covered that on the first page. We know that water is struggling, and we know that the electric fund is going down because we had intended to. Utilities as a whole is down. Where's that? Utilities as a whole is down. Revenues are down almost 305,000 from last year. Expenditures are up by 96,000 from last year. So I'm not too worried about the revenues being down because we're trying to get the electric fund down, but just the loss in the water and wastewater is the scary part. All funds, expenditures, wages are up almost 229,000. And we'll keep an eye on that, and I'll try to figure out what happened last year that made things so different, because it seems from when I started that everything is right on par with appropriations and what we should be doing. So I'm not too terribly worried about that. Nothing really notable in the fund transfers. Refunds are down 11,000 for the year, income tax refunds. So I'm not going to complain about that. That doesn't really shock me a whole lot, I guess. That's pretty much everything for that page. The next page is the balance sheet with all the checking accounts. Not really a whole lot there. The general account is a little over 4.1 million. The electric fund is 3.2 million. Park fund is 194,000. Yeah, our total cash is $14,820,539.86. So we are still in a very good position citywide. So kudos to everybody for managing that so well. That's it for that page.
Excuse me, my phone there. Okay. Last month, in looking at this page, we talked about interest rates versus the fees that we're paying, and I wondered what follow-up you have to report.
Well, it kind of sounds like we might just have to switch some banks, which is something we really don't want to do because it's a lot of work. But from the taxpayers' side of things, we don't want to waste their money either.
Okay, tell us which banks.
Well,
Go ahead, Andrew.
I'll chime in. To be fair, and then I saw the court bank account statements too, and their fees have gone up quite a bit from what they used to be. So I think we need to include their bank accounts in that decision as well, because they're housed at US Bank, as well as our electric and park. So we need to see if there's like something we can do there. PNC, of course, we talked about that has gone up quite a bit. And I get their analysis statements and the fees they charge have just gone up in general with them. So we need to really seriously try to negotiate those fees again. It's a common thing that they do, especially when we're not getting the interest rates. We really need to negotiate those fees again. A lot of banks do tend to get you in, lock in a low initial one, and then a year later you're back up wanting to shop again. So I want it to be more of a long-term fix because that's not easy to switch accounts, but at the same time these fees are getting ridiculous.
Okay. Well, thank you, and I know you'll continue to follow up on that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking here, at the banks we have. I know Nathan has talked in the past about Mechanics Bank, about that as a possibility. I know the credit union, we are not by law allowed to put monies there. I'm thinking about the institution out there at George Hawk Road, and is that First Federal?
Yes, it is.
So, we do have, two other financial institutions in town that we could approach.
Right. And I've considered possibly splitting the funds up a little bit more because there's a lot of funds that are lumped into that PNC account, for example. So, for example, if we split water and sewer, I don't know if that would alleviate some of the fees or something. However, the smaller the balances, when the interest rates do eventually rebound, that could affect them. So I just feel like the balances we have with these banks, they should be giving us more of a break on the fee structure, and they don't seem too interested. Well, at least PNC doesn't seem too interested in doing that. US Bank, as a fee structure, has treated us real well. This last month, I've seen they kicked up too, so I'm going to have a conversation with them, and hopefully they'll, help us out like they have in the past there. But I don't know if we simply even just split some of that up and, share the pie a little bit more, if that would help. I'm not sure, but that's been considered as well.
Okay. Well, very good. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for our cash investment reconciliation page. The next page is the Suter Roush funds, which we had no expenses during the period, some small interest amounts. And then of course a loss with Edwards Jones as the investments have gone down, but fairly steady. I did get a phone call from Troy Baker at Edward Jones, and I'll probably talk with the mayor and the law director about maybe moving some things around with him to try and get us in a better position as we move forward. That's everything I have for that page. The final page lists income tax collections. So far for the year, total income tax collections are $1,396,084, which is up for the year by almost $10,000. The number that just really surprises me is April's collection of $438,000. I'm shocked because I figured that with the due date changing for income tax returns that it would be down. But I guess maybe the businesses jumped, got their returns done earlier because a lot of times federal returns are due in March for them, and withholding was good for the first quarter. So I'm really happy with how things are, and we'll just see how they go over the next few months.
Is the filing date, is it June or July?
July.
July, okay.
That's
Ours are filed, so that's why I don't have to work.
that's right. Who cares anymore?
It's a done deal for the Gates Welch home. Yeah, when I printed out this email or the attachments and saw that, I did kind of that Roadrunner, double take. What is this? But I'm just going to assume that responsible people who went either did their taxes themselves or to the tax professional, and everyone was planning for April 15th. It's like, well, it's done. Let's just file it and have it over with. So.
Yeah.
Can't complain. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything for my report.
Okay. Mr. Martin, do you have any comments or questions?
No, well, I have one personnel related question, but maybe I can address that later. I was just wondering about vacation time. I know a lot of businesses, because people can't obviously take vacations during this time, they're allowing additional rollover to the following year. Now, I know that obviously there's a lot that's negotiated and there's no wiggle room there, but I don't know how we were handling that with our personnel that we do have the wiggle room with that, and how is that going to affect coverage next year if we do decide to do that. So that was my only question, but that's more personnel related. So just as long as it gets answered before we're done, then we're fine with that.
Okay, well, with that as an introduction, Mayor, we'll ask you for your personnel report.
I'll defer that question to Amber. She can kind of explain a little bit of that whole conversion process and where we're at this year. But let me first say, Amber, please announce that our workforce has stayed healthy over these last few weeks. As you may recall, we have staggered workforce, except for the fire guys. Of course, they're operating as usual. I had a meeting with the fire captains and the chief. Really, they seem to be, and the morale is good. They understand where they're at and what they're doing, and so they're working, I think, extremely well in this environment and taking all the protocols and more to keep themselves on the safe side, the healthy side. We plan, I say we being getting together with saw several of us. I forget it was Mr. Geis, Mr. Ensman, myself, and I think Mr. Crum, I think Amber and Beth Conrad and Tiffany were together, sort of getting the service department back to full force next week. They've got a lot of projects they need to start working on. So we discussed what that looks like, and in as much as possible in that environment with the protocols be in place as have been outlined. City Hall and the utilities office, John is going to open up the drive-through window again Monday. And then through next week there, as we kind of get things in place, reformatting some of the office dynamics of opening up City Hall and the lobby at the utilities office, again, with all the protocols in place, watching our numbers. Probably the lobby will be limited to 4 people at a time, actually, but kind of rolling that out in a little bit of a, I would say this kind of a soft reopening and see what things look like over the next few days. I think that's about all I had to report on right now.
Okay. Based on what you've said, Mayor, and looking at our financials, it answers the question that I was probably going to ask. And I won't ask the question, but I'll tell you what the question was I was going to ask. We know that Mayor, your counterpart in Mansfield surprised council counterparts there with layoff announcements in the fire service. But from what I'm seeing here, that's certainly not a concern at this point. If obviously it's a month by month, then we'll see what happens. But
Right.
of course, the difference is in this city there is a high degree of collegiality between the administrative branch and the legislative branch, and I don't know. I won't say where that may be absent, but I will say that we have that high degree of collegiality here. So that's much appreciated. So, Mayor, thank you.
Yes, both sides. You're welcome. Amber, do you want to address the vacation issue, or did you understand what Mr.
No,
Martin?
I think I understood the question. So far, that hasn't seemed to be too much of an issue. I know Lance has said in his department, a lot of them are not taking vacation right now because there's nowhere to go. His school resource officers would typically take time off when school would be like on break, like spring break, for example. He would encourage them to take their vacation during that period. So then the summertime, they would be available to help out with, gaps in the coverage in the summertime. So as things open up and stuff, there might be some issues with scheduling everyone's vacations. As far as yes, this contract, the vacations and how much they can roll over and everything. As far as anyone really voicing concerns with wanting to roll it over or anything, I haven't really heard anything about that. As it is now, if they can't use it, and they can only roll over up to 80. So if we have people that, have 4 or 5 years, or 4 or 5 weeks worth of vacation left to use, they can essentially request to cash out 80, if they have enough in their bank, I should say, cash out up to 80 and then still roll over another 80 for next year. So the ones that have determined they won't be able to use it, I think they've been cashing it out or maybe cashing out part of it and only rolling over a part of it. I know some employees have made comments where they had to wait to get like their elective procedures done. I don't think we have too many that, put that off, but there might be instances of that, too, with the staffing where they had to wait for those kind of things too. But all in all, really the only department that has the biggest concerns with vacation that have voiced anything would be the police. The others don't seem too worried about it.
All right, I appreciate it. I just wanted to see, make sure that we're kind of thinking ahead on that. And honestly, I wasn't thinking about it too much, but my employer sent a revised policy out that we can roll over more because of that, because of it's difficult to take vacation when there's nowhere to go. But that's just what brought it to my mind, and I thought that that obviously might affect coverage for next year. But anyways, I appreciate it.
Well, I think if if employees in any one of the three unions feel they're being pinched, someone will call the safety service director and want to broach the subject of an MOU. So I think as we get into September and it looks like it may hit, I think any one of our unions would say, look, can we take a look at this paragraph?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for the committee? Well, Nathan, I think, as you talk about water and sewer, that's our committee reports come Monday will be, somewhat linked like that. So as far as the financial end of water and sewer. So, they've been, the concerns have been there for a couple of years now, so they flip-flop from one year to the other, but it looks like maybe, unfortunately, the stars have misaligned this year for us. We'll see what happens. So, okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else to come before the committee at this point? Okay. It is 4:12 p.m. then, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.